that smooth sounds of the pianos playing. I could listen to the song for hours. In honor of the Masters, we're going to open up with some special Masters theme music. The only thing that would make this intro better is if Jim Nantz himself was doing it. But this is episode 48 of the Saturday Morning Snap Fantasy Football Podcast. Hopefully you're getting this episode in before moving day at the Masters. We are recording on Thursday afternoon. Tiger Woods just got off the course 72 under par to start the tournament. Loving his chances going into the weekend so far. Hopefully when you are listening to this, he has the lead. And on Saturday, April 13th, maybe we'll be seeing Tiger making his push to a fifth green jacket. But today on the episode, we are going to be doing a little edition of Fantasy Court, a new idea. We're going to take some controversial topics and discuss them like we were in a courtroom. Plaintiff, defendant, judge, all the goodness. I got my boys with me, Landon, Mark. How's it going, boys? How was your week?
Oh, the smell of fresh cut grass, the roar of the crowd.
The Tiger roar.
Oh, I'm talking about the gridiron. Sorry.
Oh.
My mind's on football. Everything's great. Mac, Landon, and everybody, if you're listening to this, Landon's 20s are officially over, so happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Lando.
Who's now 30.
30,
Thank
over
you,
the hill,
gentlemen.
washed up.
And he doesn't look a day over 40.
You mean over 20?
Yeah. Well, I feel old and rickety, and I still can't touch my toes, but my golf is dang good, and that's all I care about. But you know what's even better? My fantasy takes. So I'm excited to talk fantasy with you, some football. Some interesting news just happened. We just got a notification on Sleeper. If you're not on the Sleeper app, I highly recommend it. I had a really good chat with one of 10 members of the Sleeper team. He talked to me about a lot of his stuff. When we have more time to discuss the Sleeper app, we will do so, but I'll give you just some teasers later on.
Yeah, really cool opportunity to jump in with them and talk, so I'm glad you got to do that.
Yeah, it was fun. Good to just pick his brain, bounce ideas off him. They really do listen to the community, and they're making changes all the time. They don't shut down, so there's no reason for these fantasy apps like Yahoo and ESPN to shut down. Why do they stop transactions? Why can't people use the platform all year round? There's no reason to, on a technical standpoint, and Sleeper hears that, and they let you do whatever you want all year round.
Mm-hmm.
All right, it's time for Fantasy Court, where we will pose some questions. Hopefully this is the first of a series that we do. It'll get more and more controversial as the season comes near. First, we're going to have a judge. And each of us have decided which side we're going to argue. We have some decent questions. We're going to talk a little bit more quarterbacks than usual. We usually a late round. Quarterback doesn't matter podcast, but I know a lot of you guys love your quarterbacks, and we're going to talk about them. And first question goes to Mark. Let's kick us off, Marky.
Okay,
So Mark's playing judge here, right?
I think
The judge. Yep.
we can't understate, first of all, the prestige of Fantasy Court. Like, you listeners can't see, but Landon and Mac had to dress up in their suits. I don't know where they dug those tatters out of. But I myself am draped in kind of a long, billowy black robe. I'm wielding a gavel, and I've got one of those Victorian era curly white wigs on. So just to create this mental image, the prestige of the Fantasy Court. We have an argument which is argued by fans, analysts, and league representatives of all kinds. That is a bit of a toss-up right now. And last year, we saw some really good numbers, maybe skewed by an uglier team record. The year before, we saw an outrageous performance from this one player. So, for you guys, Lando and Mac, my question is this. will Carson Wentz ever be as good as he was pre-injury?
Carson Wentz. Well, I had the Carson Wentz in Dynasty Football when he went off. I drafted him in his sophomore year. So I will be the one to argue for Carson Wentz. I believe he will return to the top tier of NFL quarterbacks. Mac, are you ready to take on my argument?
Bring it, pal. You got 2 minutes.
Carson Wentz, the second overall draft pick in the 2016 NFL draft. He averaged, when he broke out, he threw an absorbent amount of touchdowns. He averaged 21.8 fantasy points, but then he got hurt. I get it. He had a hairline fracture in his rib and missed some more yards. He was extremely efficient as a quarterback, and he broke some boundaries. We knew this year he wasn't going to sustain that kind of touchdown ratio. But we saw Patrick Mahomes do a very similar thing in his sophomore year. This league has become a very quarterback-friendly league. And the Philadelphia Eagles let Nick Foles go. They have full confidence in Carson Wentz. Right now, the top tier of quarterbacks, Pat Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Andrew Luck, Baker Mayfield, Deshaun Watson. There's no reason why Carson Wentz can't be in that mixture. The Eagles themselves are a good team. They've got great weapons in Zach Ertz. Alshon Jeffrey will be back healthy to start this season. There's no reason why them as a team will not have the attempts up, touchdowns up. He will be right in the mixture with that. Unfortunately, he did have a ACL injury. I get that. There are tons of players that have come back from ACL injuries, including Tom Brady, one of the best, the absolute GOAT at quarterback. He ran for a lot of yards, but runners actually come back from ACL injuries as well, like Adrian Peterson. I'll give you one more reason to argue against Carson Wentz, but I don't think it's a big deal. He had some back spasms. That's held him out this year. Guess who else had back spasms this year? Saquon Barkley. And he did just fine. They didn't need him last year. They had Nick Foles. This year they will lean on him. He will return to the top tier of quarterbacks, and I am fully confident in that.
Very well, Landon. Your time arguing for the case of Carson Wentz is up. Mac, you're on the floor. You have 2 minutes to rebut.
So when you say back spasms, Landon, I think what you actually mean is stress fracture in his vertebrae. So there is a huge difference between a cramped muscle and a fractured or stress fractured bone, specifically in your back, which is, a big part of your central nervous system. And that is an area, when weakened, has a profound impact on player performance. So I look at Carson Wentz last year. I think what we're trying to say is, will Carson Wentz ever return to that 2017 MVP caliber season where he had 3,300 yards passing, 33 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions? I say no. And the reason why I say no is because typically if we look at Carson Wentz and the Eagles specifically, last year in the 11 games that he played, during the first quarter, he threw at about an average of 62% passing. Whereas in the second half, he threw for about 72%. So a 10% boost. So he happened to be just a second half quarterback during his time, but that sort of had to do with the Eagles game script. Now, I know that they were great in 2017 winning the Super Bowl, but they didn't need Carson Wentz to win the Super Bowl. So his role in that offense is arguably replaceable, as Nick Foles replaced him quite easily and looked really great doing it. And so I just think when you look at this team now with the Eagles, they bring in Jordan Howard. They're putting a little bit more stock into their run game. If they have to use Carson Wentz in an exorbitant amount, I think that that is going to be troubling for him if he's forced to use his legs, if he's forced to throw a lot. If his back's not good and his ACL is not fully recovered, that's just going to lead to potentially further injury. So I don't really think Carson Wentz could return to that elite level form, and I don't think he can be considered elite until he can be good for 60 minutes. So that's why I don't think Carson Wentz could be, shades of his former self or better.
Very well. Calculating. Both sides, there are fair arguments made. And I will not try to include my opinion here, but strictly based on the arguments made, I am leaning towards the con side. I think that Mac made many good points about how, regardless of his status last year, his ability to remain somewhat efficient but not put wins on the board for Philadelphia, I think that's a bit of a problem. However, the question states, will Carson Wentz ever be as good as he was pre-injury? I am having a hard time saying he never will be, but at this point in time, I am not crazy about the Eagles, and I thought that Foles would have been the better option if I was running the team. Let the record show Carson Wentz will never, ever be as good as he was pre-ACL tear.
I am licking my finger.
Read the fine print.
But if you're listening to this, Carson, you were the man before that.
We'll have you on the show anytime. I love you. I think you're great.
We love you.
All right. So that's one for me. I'm liking that.
Okay.
You want me to play judge then?
You're up.
Okay. A polarizing question. One that is hotly debated right now. The hype train has been rolling through the Ohio region for quite some time since the Odell Beckham Jr. trade. The question here is, will the Cleveland Browns finally make the playoffs next year?
Okay, 2019, because they'll make the playoffs eventually. We get that.
No. Next year, 2019, will the Browns finally make the playoffs?
All right. Mark, you are in charge of the pro.
Okay. Well, let me begin
2 minutes on the clock.
Okay, well, starting with the division, the AFC North, Cleveland will contend with Baltimore for the championship, and which means one or the other will receive a wild card spot. I'm going to openly start with my argument with that. Betting-wise, at the beginning of last season, you'd have been insane to put money on the Browns as a playoff contender at all. Mm-hmm. And now, only two teams are favored higher than the Browns to win the AFC championship, the Pats and the Chiefs. They apparently have a better chance at winning, according to bookkeepers, than Indianapolis, Philly, Los Angeles Chargers, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore. Let's move on. Let's move on. On defense, huge acquisitions. Sheldon Richardson and Olivia Vernon for the defensive line. We're talking a Pro Bowler in Richardson and a stout veteran in Olivier Vernon. Linebacker Kirksey will return healthy. We've got, I don't need to name more names here. On defense, these guys are a star-studded roster, and now that they've added these two guys on the front line, I think they're going to dominate. Offense, I mean, so much has been said already. Like, we're talking the talent that they have, the young talent that they have in Nick Chubb, and to add Kareem Hunt onto that, albeit partway through the season, is an unbelievable amount of talent in the backfield. All in all, the team is young, renewed, hungry, and made some of the boldest and best acquisitions that I can say I've seen in my years as a viewer. And that's about all I have to say on that matter. Oh yeah, by the way, there's Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, and Baker Mayfield. And those are my last arguments.
Okay, 2 minutes is up. It's a good way to end it. A couple name drops there, Mark. Lando, it's over to you to tell me why the Browns will not make the playoffs.
The Browns. The Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns have been at the bottom of this whole league for as long as I can remember. As long as I've been an NFL fan, they have never made the playoffs, and they have had winless seasons. Granted, they've added plenty of star power. I get that. I love Odell Beckham. Love Baker Mayfield, Kareem Hunt, all that. There have been in recent memory all-star teams, the dream teams, the 2011 Philadelphia Eagles, Deshaun Jackson, LaShawn McCoy, Michael Vick, led by, you might be surprised, Andy Reid, and they missed the playoffs. There are a lot of egos on that team. When those receptions aren't going to Odell Beckham like he wants, I hope he makes up with that kicker's net. Maybe this time he won't. I don't know. Who am I to say? Maybe they're not best friends, Jarvis and Odell Beckham. It's been a long time since college. They are changed men. When they're competing for targets, for their lives, for their salaries, things might be a little bit different. There's a lot of good teams that have missed the playoffs with really good records. So even if they have a great season, 10-6, 11-5, teams have missed the playoffs with those records. It's quite possible that they have a great season, success in all of our fantasy eyes, but they miss the playoffs. Some bad bounces, some bad kicks, they lose a couple close games, and they miss the playoffs. Pittsburgh last year missed the playoffs. Everyone had them to win the division outright, and they did not make it in. Yeah, I'm a fully believer in the Cleveland Browns having a good season, good fantasy, but they will miss the playoffs.
Both sides are good here. I don't think I've quite heard enough, so I'd like to open this up for about a 1-minute rebuttal if you'd like to take what your opponent has said and respond to that if you'd like. So I'm going to kick it over to Mark. I'm going to give you a minute on the clock, and anything that you didn't get to say or you'd like to address in response to some things that Landon has said, you have a minute to do so.
I'm taking a glance at the schedule ahead of the Browns. We don't know in what order these games are going to be happening, but they have a pretty smooth ride, especially with this defense that they're working with now. I love Denzel Ward as a corner. I don't think there's many receivers in this league you can throw against that player and not have lockdown coverage. I think while there may be a couple holes on the entire team itself, you can't argue that the Cleveland Browns have one of the most studded rosters in the league. But to address it more specifically is the youth of the team too. This is a team that there's so many big names that are only starting to develop and over the offseason are going to continue to get better. This season, they're going to come out and work with just a team like we haven't really seen in that division. And among the fresh acquisitions there, like I said, with Kareem Hunt and Beckham, I think that just makes them a truly scary team in the whole AFC, not just the North.
Okay. Landon, over to you, sir.
I'm going to go with youth as a deterrent. They're so young. They've got plenty of years to win. They will win eventually. I am fully capable. They could win a Super Bowl eventually. For them to be favorites to win the Super Bowl is an absolute ridiculous statement. I don't even think they're going to get in. They don't know how to win on the NFL level yet. Baker Mayfield, great quarterback, love him. He lost in the Rose Bowl. He lost on the biggest stage to the Georgia Bulldogs, and I don't think he can win in the big moments in 2019.
Ooh, that is a statement. Wow. Okay. Man, I'm trying to leave myself out of this and look at the cases that have been presented to me. This is really tough. I think there's a lot of things to be said about team chemistry and that to take a little bit to develop. I think that it is very, very possible that they don't get into the playoffs with a 10-6 record. And I think a 10-6 record would be something to be extremely proud of for the Browns. With that being said, I think that with their defense, like Mark brought up, being as good as it was last year and then improving upon it positionally, combined with the acquisitions they made at offense and Baker Mayfield getting better and that run game just going to be so solid, I think I have to say that the Browns will make the playoffs in 2019. So,
No.
Landon, honestly, this is, out of the three topics we have, this is the hardest uphill battle to climb. And I honestly thought going into this, you had zero chance to convince me, and you almost did. So I think you did a hell of a job presenting some good points, but I think I think I have to go with Mark on this one.
It was a tough climb. The hype around the Browns is so real. I get it.
But a hell of a case. I thought you had no chance of changing my mind.
Yeah. All right.
Good question, Mac.
That was fun. I like doing that. I like being the devil's advocate for a lot of stuff. So
yeah, you willingly volunteer your name on that line.
All right, my question. 2 rookie sensations, both drafted in the first round. They're not quarterbacks, or they're not running backs, they're not wide receivers, they are 2 quarterbacks. Both with very similar skill sets. But who was having the better fantasy football season in 2019? Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills or Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens?
Mark, you want to go first? You want me to go first?
If only you could put on a song by Alan Jackson right now.
I mean, we could.
That would be a pretty obscure prelude, but... Okay,
Mac, I want to hear your pro for Josh Allen. I want to hear that first.
Pro for Josh Allen. Okay. These 2 players are quite special. We didn't really get to see them in their primes until the second half of the season. It took a little bit for Lamar Jackson to become a starter in Baltimore, and Josh Allen got that role fairly early with Nathan Peterman being Nathan Peterman, but was out from week 7 to 10. So I'm going to use weeks 11 through 17 to sort of accurately compare these 2 players from a production standpoint and a fantasy standpoint. Before I do that, we'll just mention their metrics, like their physical attributes. So Lamar Jackson 6'2", 216, Josh Allen 6'5", 237. Okay. Going into weeks 11 to 17, Josh Allen was the 3rd best quarterback at the end of that stretch. 145.3 fantasy points, averaging 24.2 a game. Lamar Jackson in the same stretch, 130.4 fantasy points, so 15 less, averaging 18.6. Now, there's a huge difference in their averages, about 6 points. The reason being, Josh Allen played 1 less game in that stretch and had 15 points more. Okay? The other argument here for Josh Allen over Lamar Jackson is right now, if you go to Fantasy Football Calculator, who I believe is the best source for draft data at this point, Lamar Jackson's being drafted the last pick of the 9th round, whereas Josh Allen's being picked the 6th pick of the 11th round. So, I mean, we're seeing a round and a half difference between these 2 players. Arguably, Josh Allen had the better fantasy output last year over the course of the whole season, 50 points more. That's not a fair comparison because they didn't both play the whole season, but weeks 11 through 17, Josh Allen was clearly the better quarterback, and you're getting him at a value compared to Lamar Jackson. So for those reasons, I would say Josh Allen will have the better fantasy season, also based on value as well.
All right. I didn't put a timer, but that's pretty close. Mark, I will time you, but you'll have some leeway because I am inadequate.
Okay. Well, first of all, Mackenzie, no. How dare you? you're stupid and you're wrong. Okay.
I will reset the timer. Really good point.
Okay. Well, they are different quarterbacks indeed, but to represent Lamar Jackson's case a little better, we're talking about a player who put up 695 rush yards in 7 games. These numbers haven't really been touched by a quarterback since Michael Vick, who is the only quarterback in the NFL to have surpassed 1,000 yards in a season. It looks like at the rate Lamar was carrying the ball, which was very often. I believe he had 147 carries last year for those 695. He's a great runner, but he is working on his passing right now in training camp. So, this being said, we have a dual threat quarterback who will shake the ground with his ability to run, but also just his pure instinct and ability to decide to make plays on the fly. That is a thing that he has over Josh Allen. Josh Allen is, not to slander the man you're backing, but he does have accuracy woes. And he has what seems like a little bit of inconsistency between his eyes and his feet. So in my eyes, I think Josh Allen is going to stick to the pocket, and he was able to accrue a bit more fantasy points in those later weeks. But I think Lamar now, after going into his second season, he is all set with a new running back behind him in Mark Ingram. He is still working with such players as Willie Snead. We got his young slot receiver Jordan Lasley, and Mark Andrews at tight end. There's lots of weapons on that offense that are kind of quiet, but I think he's going to come out and change that team. Lots of people are investing all their stock in Lamar Jackson, and for a reason. He's a very special player. In that being said, much like his college days, he is going to come back and put up 1,500 yards on the ground.
No.
Oh.
50. Okay. 1,000. He's definitely getting 1,000, but he could very well put up close to 100 yards every game that he's out there. So that alone for your fantasy team makes him the superior quarterback to have.
All right. Strong points by both sides. Mac, you have 1 minute to
Rebut. So you're talking about Josh Allen's struggles at accuracy. Lamar Jackson also in the 50 range, 58%, 99 for 170 last year. Josh Allen, 169 for 320, 52.8. So we're looking at, 5%. They're both in the 50s, so that's nothing to write home about. What they both get done on the ground is very comparable. Why I like Josh Allen better as a running option, he is more durable. 237 pounds, 6'5". That's a big boy to tackle. And at times you saw him take off for huge runs. He gets out in open field. He's a tough man to stop. So, 200 and... I'm looking at the wrong number. But either way,
10 seconds.
Josh Allen was drafted 7th overall by the Bills for a reason. And there's a reason that Lamar Jackson was drafted last pick of the first round. I think there was concerns for Lamar Jackson. He couldn't have his college style transition over to the NFL. We've seen that. And the last point I'll make, I know I'm over time, but Josh Allen had nobody to throw to last year. Who was the number one receiver for the Bills last year? Exactly. Lamar Jackson had plenty of people to throw to and couldn't get it done. So Josh Allen will be the better fantasy player now that he has some weapons to throw to.
All right, Marky, you're on the clock. Mac went over, so you have 1:30 to rebut.
Lamar Jackson is going to at least stay upright because he has an offensive line to protect him. Now, if your new offensive line around Josh Allen is going to be the difference maker, hopefully they can keep him from getting sacked, because that is one thing that the Bills were unable to do. at least in Baltimore, I think there are quite a few options for the ball to go to. Whereas I think in Buffalo, it's a fizzling system that's going to rely on Josh Allen getting to the ball to guys like John Brown and Cole Beasley, who are also new to the team. So whatever success is going to be had with the Bills organization is going to take a long time to develop. It's not going to happen in the first half of the season, whereas I think Lamar Jackson and his Ravens are going to fly in.
I see what you did there.
Right.
Yeah, 20 seconds if you want. Your minute is up, but if you're done, you can finish whenever you like.
That's about all I have to say on this guy. Plus, I have him on my team, and just I feel like there's a reason I don't have Josh Allen, right?
Josh Allen, 631 yards rushing, 8 touchdowns. That's my last rebuttal.
Hey, that's...
Boom!
I will not take that into account. Have you seen Lamar Jackson's college statistics?
Oh, they're unbelievable. He won the Heisman for a reason.
1,600 yards the past 2 seasons in college on the ground. Over 3,000 yards through the air.
Have you watched a college football game?
Have I watched? No.
Have you watched any of Lamar Jackson's college football games?
No, I haven't.
He could literally call a wildcat play and take off for 15 yards if he wanted to. Like, you can get to the edge in college football so fast and no one can touch you if you're an elite level talent. That's what Lamar Jackson was. And he's playing with subpar athletes in comparison to what he is in the NFL. Like,
this is true.
Of course he's going to look great in college. A lot of guys look great in college. Fuck. Johnny Manziel was one of the best college prospects of the last 2 decades. And he just got cut from the AAF. Like... Just because you're good in college doesn't mean you're going to be good in the NFL.
Well, the whole league got cut, to be fair.
True. So what's your verdict here, Lando? Mark has to depart.
This is a tough one. I know. So obviously the fantasy stats are in favor of Josh Allen. It was going to be an uphill climb for Mark with the Lamar Jackson. I get that it was a little bit of a tougher argument. As what I said, I was a big believer in Lamar Jackson coming into the league. I wish he would have ran the 40 time. I think Baltimore is a better football team. I don't think the Buffalo Bills are going to be successful in 2019. I think there's more touchdown upside for Lamar, just with the better team. Granted, I think there's still opportunity for Josh Allen to. He's got a big arm. He's got accuracy issues, but he's got a big arm. And the John Brown acquisition does help him a little bit. Oh, boy. I see both sides. You guys both made some good arguments. Man. Who would I rather have? Who would I rather have in 2019?
No, it's based on the arguments, man.
Based on your arguments. I'm going with Marky. I'm going with Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, all right.
I feel like that was a vengeful pick.
Regardless, the gavel has been hammered.
That was just a revenge pick.
Okay, I have got to take this opportunity to sign off. My good man.
Have a good one.
We'll wrap this thing up without you, but well played, sir. Congratulations to you.
Right back at you. Enjoy doing Fantasy Court, and we'll talk next week.
Sounds good, man.
See ya.
Okay, I love you guys. Bye-bye.
All right, we got some news items to clean up here. So, you wanna bust off the one that just broke today?
So, Leonard Fournette. Unfortunately got arrested today.
Wow.
See what that was a little bit of a stretch. That was a stretch. He got arrested from a traffic violation, didn't pay a ticket, and got arrested. So I don't think it's a really big of a deal, but it's just one more thing in Jacksonville.
No, I know it's troubling for dynasty owners, keeper owners of Leonard Fournette. I don't think this has any it doesn't weigh on his season, but it just doesn't look good,
No.
Especially after the season that he did have, having something like this in the off season, just something silly too. Like, come on, man, we know you got money, just pay up those fines, get everything clean, and just avoid things like this. It's being in the spotlight for negative things, negative attention, never a good thing for fantasy football players, but for fantasy in general. So, not a big news case, but it's negative press is bad press,
So as a Fournette owner in Dynasty, do you need to have his handcuff?
I do have his handcuff, but that's the thing. I don't know if TJ Yeldon's going to be that handcuff. He's currently not.
He's a free agent now, so he's
Yes.
visiting other teams.
Yes, exactly. So, for me, I mean, like I said, I don't think it means bad things. It's not like Leonard Fournette's going to be suspended to start the year because he didn't pay a traffic ticket. But it's just one more thing to add to the laundry list of problems with Leonard Fournette going into the season. So hopefully he keeps it clean, stays focused from here on out, and everything will be good. But at this point, I don't feel like I have to rush out and get a handcuff for him, but probably not a bad idea to be forward thinking.
Right. And then we'll see what they do in the draft. They might draft a young running back. I think they've learned not to do it in the first round again, but third or fourth round, they might get a good guy, good talent, maybe a do-it-all pass catcher.
Oh, that's the thing too. I mean, going into our dynasty draft, we have to, in our league, you have 25 players. We have to drop 5. So we have to keep 20. And then we have a 5-round rookie draft. So if I was going to just, off a whim, go pick up the handcuff for Leonard Fournette, I would probably end up dropping that player before the draft too. So,
right.
Yeah.
So we've got some breaking news. Jets are signing former Packers running back Ty Montgomery to a 1-year deal.
Okay.
Expected
Heading over from the Ravens.
Le'Veon Bell, yeah.
Do you like that?
I think the Jets think they are a contender with a young core, decent defense, all-star running back. I think they want to ensure that they're going to be okay. And with what we've seen from Ty Montgomery, he will be serviceable. He can do it all. He's a similar stereotype to what Le'Veon Bell can do on a lower level. So they ideally, I don't think they don't skip a beat is what I'm saying. Like they don't, if Lev, God forbid, gets hurt, they'll run the same offense. Ty Montgomery is fine.
Yeah, and I think with Isaiah Crowell departing to the Raiders,
they needed somebody.
Yeah, I mean, Elijah McGuire being the backup to Le'Veon Bell, probably not the greatest option. Ty Montgomery is definitely serviceable for the Packers. Is a great pass catching back. Was a wide receiver converted into a running back. So he's a big bodied, got a good skill set. He's not the tallest guy, but he's a solid guy and can be used in both the pass catching work and the run game. So a good complement to Le'Veon Bell, probably a good kind of change of pace guy if Bell needs a break from his giant workload that I foresee him to have. So yeah, I don't mind the signing. I don't think he was doing anything on the Ravens. So probably a good move for him.
For sure. What do you think about the signing of Sterling Shepard, an extension to the Giants? $41 million extension. Obviously this is their long-term guy. I really did like Sterling Shepard going into his rookie year. He was a great route runner. He's shown that he could have some big boom games, but that was opposite. Well, either way, what do you think about Sterling Shepard in 2019?
So it was what, 4 for 41 mil?
Something like 4 year, 41 mil.
So I think anytime a team invests heavily into one of their players, especially a younger player, it's a good sign that they are healthy and the team believes in their talent. And so I think it's anybody who had doubts about Sterling Shepard, this is probably good news. He's going to be a long-term fixture for the Giants. And sorry, I'm thinking about DeMarcus Lawrence, just looking at a picture of him here. But Sterling Shepard is going to be a long-term fixture for that team. And so it's a little bit of reassurance for me if I held him on a dynasty team per se. Mm-hmm. So I like to see things like that.
He'll learn from one of the best slot receivers in the league in Golden Tate. So I think it's fine. I'm interested to see what happens with them next year. If one of them goes outside, they keep working in the middle of the field. What happens with Evan Ingram? It'll be interesting to see the dynamic and where everyone lines up next year.
Mm-hmm. And the Cowboys signing, defensive end DeMarcus Lawrence, not fantasy related, but the richest player contract in franchise history for the Cowboys. They are investing $105 million over 5 seasons, and 65 of that is guaranteed. I mean, DeMarcus Lawrence is a machine. 6'5", about 270, and getting him almost $22 million a year if you crunch the numbers. So. Great contract for him. Probably a really good piece to lock up. It's just,
they're not making the same mistake as the Raiders did in letting a guy like Khalil Mack go.
Exactly.
They want the foundation of their defense. They've got a really good young core there. And to get a guy like DeMarcus Lawrence locked up is huge.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's just Dallas at times looked great on defense, and he was a huge part of that. So if Dallas is going to be competitive in their division, they need to, maintain a solid defense. And he's a big piece of that, man. He's a leader on that team and a good signing.
So next, riding that hype train, the Patriots signed Austin Seferian-Jenkins to a contract. On the heels of Gronk's retirement, they signed a big touchdown target in ASJ. What do you think about him? What would you do with ASJ? If he's on your waiver wire in Dynasty, you got to pick him up, don't you? If you have him, do you sell him? What's your thoughts on the signing?
Oh, it's a sell 1,000%.
I saw your Twitter. I know
you saw my Twitter. It's 100% a sell. I mean, to think that a guy who has struggled to be fantasy relevant, has struggled to stay focused during the football season, guys had countless run-ins with the law. He's only 26. He's been on multiple NFL teams so far. I mean, this smells of Josh Gordon going to the Patriots, just sort of like a project trying to sort of turn him around. And I mean, you saw what happened to Josh Gordon. He reverted to old habits, and unfortunately, I don't ever want to see a guy struggle like that, but ASJ's had the same sort of issue. So I don't know what the Patriots are thinking here. He's not the type of player to go fill that Gronk void. Like, let's face it, Gronk was a generational talent, arguably the best tight end of all time. There's a case to be made there. ASJ's not coming in to fill that role. I don't know what the role is. I mean, he has some red zone presence, but I'm not going out to get him in any leagues. I'm not going to draft him over a lot of tight ends that we've talked about. If I have ASJ in a keeper or a dynasty league, I'm probably trying to sell on the hype because a leopard doesn't change his spots.
So if they don't draft a tight end in the draft, which is unlikely, where do you take ASJ? You're not even going to touch him.
No, I'm not going to waste a draft spot on him. I'll assess his usage, if he passes the eye test, what his role will be with this team. I'll assess all that during preseason and the beginning of the season. If he's still on the waiver wire, I'll scoop him up. But I think there's some Patriots fans out there and people that are going to follow the hype that will waste capital on him. And I just, I don't want any part of it, you know? What about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're pretty much right. I'm looking at some tight end ADPs right now, and I think I'd probably rather some of these guys than ASJ. I've taken him as a flyer in a lot of leagues in previous years, and he's always let me down. He just needs to catch a touchdown, and that's his only opportunity to do anything. And he's the perfect almost touchdown guy. He had, especially in Jacksonville, he had so many touchdowns called back with the Jets, just so close. Thought he caught it and then didn't. And then
let's not forget his stint in Tampa Bay.
Right.
In Jacksonville.
Yeah.
You know, it's the guy's only 26, man. Like, it's not like we're talking about a 30-year-old player here.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're looking at tight ends that are in the 13th, 14th round, I mean, Chris Herndon, Kyle Rudolph, Austin Hooper. I would rather have all three of those guys over ASJ.
Yeah.
And I'm not even gonna entertain Rudolph or Herndon. I'll probably take Hooper. I like Hooper at the first pick of the 14th round for ADP right now. That's fantastic. There's no way I'm taking ASJ ahead of that. There's just no way.
Yeah. Who's winning the Masters?
Oh, geez. I mean, I gotta go with Tiger. We were talking yesterday off mic. We're doing Millionaire Maker for DraftKings. It's $20 to go in this thing. It's not cheap for an entry. Do you take Tiger Woods? And I said to you, I would rather lose $20 than to not take Tiger and for him to win. Like, I couldn't live with that. I ended up not taking Tiger in the Millionaire Maker. I have him in a couple other spots, in other lineups, just because of the value, whatever. But I would love to see Tiger win. That's no surprise. Outside of Tiger, who has the best chance to win? I think I had to put my money with Dustin Johnson or Justin Rose. I say that because I look at both of their games, and to me, the difference between a guy like Rose and DJ and a potential contender like McIlroy is McIlroy's had a tendency to struggle in conditions, and this week in Augusta, they're supposed to get heavy winds and potentially a lot of rain. And so I think if that comes, I know Rory's a European, an Irish guy growing up, and he's played to that a lot, but his track record in conditions play has not been good. So I think if that is a factor, DJ and Justin Rose have a better chance of winning. That's just kind of the way that I see it, or the way my gut's sort of pushing me.
Rosie's +4 right now. Paul Casey's +5. Dang.
See that's good. I faded Paul Casey, which is awesome.
I liked him.
We did a 12-man draft for the Masters, which was a ton of fun. I ended up getting Rory second overall. Tiger went first, and you got Ricky as your first pick at the fifth or sixth.
Yeah, the fifth spot. I liked,
which Ricky. I thought I thought that was a great pick.
Yeah, he's 2 under today, so
yeah. So anyways, good start.
It should be a lot of fun.
Who do you think is going to win?
I think DJ has a really good chance. He's just so long. He's going to birdie. Oh, he's 3 under now, so he's tied with the lead. Yeah, he's a pretty good lock. Rory
I just really hope
to have a block at this golf course, just not making the putts he should make sometimes.
Yeah, I honestly just think, I hope that at the end of noon on come noon Sunday, I hope that we've got Tiger and DJ tipping it up to go, toe for toe for the green jacket. That'd be unbelievable.
Yeah. I work Sunday night, and if I'm going to miss any of it, I'm calling in sick. You heard it here first.
I'll send this podcast to your boss.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next week. Tune into us Saturday. We come on as early as 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're on the West Coast, 2 a.m. if you're up partying, pop us on, give us a listen. If you've been listening for a while, go ahead and leave us a review. And if you've just been listening to for the first time, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It is free for you, means the world for us. And we'll see you guys next Saturday.
All right, man. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, you too. See ya.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Saturday Morning Snap Fantasy Football Podcast. Follow us on Twitter at SMS_fantasy. Support this independent podcast at patreon.com/SaturdayMorningSnap.